Good evening, Senator Walters. Pleasure to
Hi,
have you on my show,
good evening,
on
good
my
evening,
segment of the show.
good evening,
Uh,
good evening. Thank you for having me. Good to be here to chat with you tonight,
yes,
sir.
great to
Yes,
have you. And I'm going to throw
yes.
something at you right away.
Mhm,
We've had this. I don't even know if to call it controversial, Ryan. Sometimes there are things that are embarrassing. And
mhm,
if I was the Minister of Labor, I understand there's a need, obviously, for you to um, increase things. But when one looks at the cost of living in Barbados, Ryan, and I hope you don't mind me calling you Ryan, if that's okay,
yeah,
if
that's fine.
with your permission. Thank you so
Yes, yes,
much.
that's fine. Yes.
When I look at the increases, the type of increases we are talking about, and I look at the
Mhm.
increase in cost of living in Barbados, I am wondering what thought, what processes went into the preparation and the decision with relate to this, because I saw an article. I think this would have been in the Nation, that I'd like to ask you to comment on, where the Minister of Labour, Social Security, and the Third Sector, Colin Jordan, is reminding businesses to structure contracts in such a way that they provide a buffer for increases outside of the company's control. But certainly, Ryan, there is a degree of responsibility that the government has, while it may do one thing on one hand, to do something on the other. So I just wanted to ask you your thoughts I don't know if you saw the article or if you were able to read the article, but your thoughts with regards to what the minister would have shared.
Hi, good night again,
Yeah.
Robert Nichols. Good to be here to have a chat with you on this occasion. Always good to be here. Good night to the viewers as well. Um, yeah, so as relates to your question, as relates to the minimum wage increase, the comments of the Minister of Labor to pretty much advise business managers and owners to factor in increases in costs and stuff as part of their model. I believe that the minister should be aware, based on his profession, that during budgeting process of a
Of
business,
a business.
yes, you have to
Yeah,
factor in some level of uncertainty within your model. It's all
absolutely.
based on
Common sense.
expectation, and sometimes you also listen out to the budget. You listen out to prime ministerial statements, to always kind of capture some of those things that might impact your business, right? So there's always that consideration going into a planning process. What is important though is that you you do things that are reasonable for both sides of the coin. What is fair for consumers, what are fair for the persons that are conducting business, and where how you strike a balance is what is important. So, for example, as you said, your concern is that cost of living has outpaced the wages. If I'm reading you correctly,
That's correct.
right? And now you're coming and giving to $2 increase in minimum wage. Now, $2 increase in minimum wage is actually over 20% increase in minimum wage. So it is a benefit to the employee. It comes at a cost to a business. No. The important point to consider in this transaction is the impact of this to small businesses. And while the minimum wage increase is something that we should all welcome, because as you said, the cost of living has outpaced the actual wages of workers, we have to also look and see what kind of support is given to those vulnerable businesses then that have to bear the cost of the increase, right? So I think there has to be a consideration. Same how we consider vulnerable people, we have to consider those vulnerable businesses who are delicate, who are small, who do not have the wherewithal to facilitate overnight increases, who themselves then might have to make some immediate response to actually cope with the increases as well. Right. One of the things that I always marvel at is that I am very supportive of a business that does the right things. And when I say does the right things, I mean a business that pays its workers well, pay
Mhm.
the national insurance for them, pay the PAYE if they're earned to that level, pay their taxes, pay in their VAT to the government that the people of Barbados pay through them to the government. So I always promote for businesses that are doing the right thing. So we need not to force businesses to do the wrong thing. It is better for a government, a country to have a business operating in a kind of a formal way, semi-formal to formal way that supports workers and the economy together rather than forcing them to do the wrong things. So if there's a need to have an increase in minimum wage, and there is a need, if there's a need to enforce that workers get a certain level of hours a week so that the minimum wage impact is felt in their pockets, I support that. But there has to also be acknowledgement from the government that there is a group of employers, similar to how there's a group of employees that has to be supported through this transition, right? So that is where I think the balancing act has to come for the government, and that is not what we're seeing. And since 2022, this government has not had a focus on small business and entrepreneurship. And if you go back and you listen to the ministers, you would hear that there's no ministry of small business and entrepreneurship as there was in 20 pre 2022 and during the time of office for the Democratic Labour Party. The government has shifted away and they now focus on business, and it is an error on their part because 90% of our businesses are small and medium-sized businesses. So it plays a very important role within the economy. So I would like to see coming out of this something that can support our small businesses, that they can pay their workers right.
Mhm.
They can pay their NS in for the workers. They can pay their VAT in that customers pay into them. But we have to support the vulnerable group of small business owners, medium-sized business owners, to help with this transition. So it's okay if I think the minister is talking to the big businesses that can afford the impact, the financial impact, but there's some small vulnerable businesses who cannot bear this cost overnight, and they need to be supported through this transition.
Well, I know you have something to share with us tonight as well on the economy. And I understand you have a presentation which I've been looking at while you're speaking. So let me let you just have the floor to expand on this a bit more because I'm looking at it and I'm very interested to hear your
Oh,
comments.
right. So see, this is not my presentation per se. This is an extract of out of the Central Bank of Barbados review of the economy for the period January to March 2025. And I I just share this with you and your viewers so that they can get an idea of some of the information that the governor of the central bank will share with the public of Barbados. Because quite often we just read the articles coming out in the paper the day after about the
Mhm.
growth in the economy, the unemployment rate, the debt to GDP, inflation, and so on. And a lot of us don't actually engage in the conversation in terms of listening to the governor as he presents the information. Now, so this is a snapshot that they would have presented in their presentation. I encourage persons to go to the Central Bank of Barbados website and they can view this report along with, they have a summary report, which this comes from. Then they have like an official report because obviously it's so much detail that the Central Bank then summarizes it and presents nuggets of important pieces to the public. Now, from on the outset, what we must respect and recognize is that these are professionals. I'm not here to question these numbers at all, any form or fashion. We have to give the respect for the professionals to do their work at the Central Bank. They have my full respect and support, and those at the Barbados Statistical Service who are working to create this information for us and to be able to share how the country is doing from an independent perspective. What I will do tonight, Reverend Nichols, is just to pick out a couple of these points here because I don't overshare information. I don't want to overburden the viewers with all of the data, but we can just talk through a few points. We can have a discussion, you and I, on it, and just go through and dig deeper. So this is a macro view of the economy. Macro view of the economy. And you can see the economy grew 2.6%. We'll start with unemployment, which is down to 7.1%. Now, this is where sometimes I am disappointed with the presentations of the governor and then the follow-up from the ministers or the officials of the government, because they don't explain the numbers and they don't give you a realistic picture sometimes of what is really happening behind the numbers. When you look at the unemployment rate down 7.1%, you would think that everything in Barbados is good in terms of employment, jobs, from young people trying to get jobs, from persons earning a proper wage, and generally in the labor, in the Department of Labor, that we do not have any issues. So looking at the number, it sounds good. They said unemployment is at its lowest or very low, 7.1%, which is good and which is commendable. But let us look at some of the issues underlying in the labor environment in Barbados. Right? That's what we want to focus on. What has happened over the last few years in labor? Hardworking citizens like myself now have to work longer before we can qualify for a pension. And this is due to primarily to one action of the government, which is to restructure the debt of the national insurance scheme. This is not shown here, but this is a serious labor issue. The fact now that we are paying more every year, we have to work longer, and that the workforce is gradually moving at a fast pace from full-time work to part-time contractual work. And this is going to have a long-term negative impact on the workers of this country. And this has been spearheaded by the government, because you've heard how they treated the ash workers. You've heard how they're treating persons now that work in different ministries, that they are on contract. You've heard how they want to deal with the principals and the leaders in the education system. So they have moved from being an employer or move persons from full-time employment down to part-time and contractual arrangements in the workplace. So it is fine to promote an unemployment rate of 7.1%. But when you look behind what is going on in our labor issues in the country, then you can see that that everything is not okay, and that there has to be some dialogue around these issues. Because a person that does not have a full-time employment is unable to get certain basic things in this country. One, I don't think they can go to a retail store that sells furniture and all that to get some consignment, to get some goods on layaway. They cannot go to the bank or the credit union to get a loan, furthermore to get a mortgage. They are at the mercy of an employer every 3, 6, or 9 month period. So there's no stability. There's no stability in the workforce for them. All they are guaranteed is that they get a paycheck when the week or when the month come, but they don't know if they're going to have a job in the next 2 or 3 months. And that is not good for workers in this country. And that's what you've been seeing over the last few years, this transition from part-time to full-time workers, driven and led by this government, this current administration. So another issue that is not highlighted here with this unemployment rate is the fact that the Employee Rights Tribunal is pretty much dead now at this point. Cases are backlogged, and the government seems not to have a focus on clearing up the employment and labor issues that workers have in this country. So these are some of the main issues when you look at labor and not just extracting an unemployment figure, which sounds good, but which in reality is costing, or which will cost Bajans more harm than good. Because as I said, you're moving the workforce from a full-time job to a part-time contractual job. During my canvassing on the ground, I've met households on numerous occasions with young persons who have been working in government for more than 4 years on contract, and they cannot go and even take out a bed. I remember a young man telling me he could not even take out a bed for Christmas because he was on contract, and he's been working there for 4 years. So what that happens is that he's not even getting the opportunity to build up a national insurance for pension, because every time he's laid off, he then has to draw on the national insurance. So it will affect him in the long run significantly. So it affects him short term, because obviously he's not able to do things that he would like to do as a young man working and living at home. And then it will affect him in the longer period, where then it would affect the pension that he would get when he reaches pensionable age, whatever that age would be. So another important issue on labor, though, is that you always hear the government talking about the development and how much how much jobs construction is going to be creating over the next 12 months. You heard them when they said that the Hyatt is going to employ 1,200 construction workers, Pierhead 300, Royalton 700, the beaches 1,700, and then they're going to build 2,000 homes a year. So if you add up the amount of construction workers that are needed for these projects, you're talking about 4,900 workers in construction alone, and that does not include the workers that should be building these 2,000 homes a year, which obviously they're not going to be building. But I'm just letting you understand how the government speaks so grandiose about all of the plans that they have, all the development. But then when you start to look at the numbers that they put before you, the facts, that you see there's some discrepancies. And when people say that we have to import labor, they say no. But if you go to the Barbados Statistical Service report for unemployment for the same period that is being reported here, which is Q3 of last year, September of last year, unemployed labor force by the last industry and sects, under construction, mining, and quarrying, there was 1,700 persons employed. So out of the 10,000 persons that are unemployed right now, you can safely say, back then, you can safely say 1,700 of those persons are interested in work in the construction sector. Yet we would need over 5,000 persons to work to build out this country based on the projects that have been highlighted by the government. So the government must accept that there will be imported labor. And the question is then, how do we treat this imported labor at this level? And they have to answer these questions. Do they pay into the national insurance, even at a different rate? Are they paid on the rates of minimum wage for the contractors in the construction sector? Sorry. Do they pay as they earn? Because some of them are earning in excess of $25,000 a year based on the skill sets that they have. But these are real issues that we have. But again, as I said, Reverend Nichols, you can't see the information from just looking at 7.1%. It sounds good,
Right.
but we have issues. We have to work longer, harder. National insurance got two lashes, one with the debt restructuring and one with the debt to climate swap. So we're talking about, I think it was 1.1 billion in once in the debt restructuring and another $300,000 of our hard-earned money that has been affected by the actions of the government. But I break for any questions or comments on that unemployment.
Well, I mean, as I look at the entire thing, I'm one that I try to be real, and I try to be on the ground. And I remember many years ago, I think it was Dr. Richie Haynes that spoke about what he said. There's something about there are two types of lies, and one of them he said was statistics. And I'm aware that a person can make statistics say whatever they want statistics to say based on how you present it, and you
Mhm.
can present something that is completely the opposite to what is reality
Yes.
for people. Because as I travel around the country, and I do a lot of traveling around the country and people engaging and so on, um, I I don't know that we are seeing that on the ground. Let me put it to you that way. I mean, I
Yes.
look at the inflation rate they're saying is down by 0.9%, and this is not meant to cast any aspirations on those persons who compile the figures and so on, because at the end of the day, they can only compile figures that were given to them by those who give them the
Yes.
figures to put together. The figures
Mhm.
are only as good as the people who provide those figures for them to put their information together. But when I walk into a supermarket, when I go into a hardware store, when I go into a mini mart, when I look at my electric bill, my water bill, I am not seeing a 0.9% decrease in inflation. And this is no joke, Ryan. Every
Yes.
time I go into the supermarket, there is a price change on the majority of items, and people can testify to this. So,
Right.
you're saying that you're seeing these things, but there are things behind that are not being explained. And so it's very difficult, I believe, for the Barbadian society to accept the figures and believe them, especially then when you turn to some of the other economic experts who cast a completely different picture on what is being proposed.
Right. Because and you made a good point. And on my last visit here with Marcia, I raised the whole notion of inflation, and it would be good if, as I said, if further information would show like inflation on food, because this is inflation totality, goods and all the other things that you might not be important to you. But if we can start to identify and isolate inflation on food as well, um, as an independent source for persons to look to see to say, hey, this is realistic or this is not realistic, but it is all lumped up into all the other goods and services that are provided and sold in the country, right? So we're feeling one way when we walk into the supermarket, and probably rightly so, but because the I just say the information is distorted, you get that feeling that is inaccurate. So it might be accurate. As I said, I have full confidence in the persons that are producing it, but again, we need the persons that are in charge need to come and explain to us, hey, this is the situation here, with the food prices in this country, which is what we're mostly concerned with. We're not
Hmm.
generally concerned overly with how much a shirt at Cave Shepherd may cost. We are concerned with how much a milk costs in the supermarket and biscuits and rice and stuff that we use on a daily basis. So
Right.
if we continue here, let's look at the debt to GDP, for example, because this is a big one for persons. The hours pointing down, debt to GDP is going down 102.8%. The long and short of this story is that the government came into office and restructured 7 billion US dollars in 2018. Okay, you're with me?
Uh-huh.
Today, our debt is 7 billion US dollars. So the debt has gone nowhere. We wrote it off and then we reborrowed. So as it relates to debt, in in 2018, the debt is the same levels as the debt is today. Although we face a restructuring of this debt, a writing off of our national insurance, our bonds, and everything local, because they cannot really touch the foreign debt, but they took advantage of all the funds that were held in bonds by the credit unions and individual bondholders, money that was borrowed from the national insurance scheme, etc. Wrote that off, but 7 years later, we are in the same position as we were when they came to office as it relates to the amount of debt in dollars. Now, one would say, why is this important? Why is it important that the debt that I'm saying, do not only look at this downward debt to GDP, let's look at the dollars, because when you borrow, you have to pay interest. I've never seen anybody borrow money and had to pay 0% interest. You have to borrow and you have to pay interest. The interest that we paid last year alone, 2024, was $750 million. Taxpayers have to pay $750 million of interest last year. In 2017, 2018, we had to pay $762.8 million in that period. So we're back at square one.
Yeah.
We are back at square one. You are paying the same interest that you paid when you took office. The debt is in the same position that it was in when you took office.
Yes.
So we're no better off as it relates to that position of the country. Actually, we are worse off because a lot of this debt now is foreign debt, and we now have to find our scarce US dollars to repay the debt. Okay.
Well, Ryan,
leaves,
I know
okay.
we have so much more to cover when it comes to the economy, but I want to give you an opportunity because I misunderstood something a little earlier. Because I
Okay.
understand that you are doing a what is it called? A turn down the pot and come event in your constituency. So if it's okay with you, I want to give you a couple of minutes here to just before we move on to the next segment to just address that, because I think that is coming up very
No,
shortly.
it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. It was
It's
yesterday.
gone. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's yesterday. I'm
Yeah.
waking
So
up a day later.
right now, so we had this is our annual constituency picnic.
Uh-huh.
So this is the third year that I'm hosting the picnic. It's really for the St. Michael Northwest constituency. We try
Mm-hmm.
to reach out to the community, all various parts of our community, to get persons to come out and have a good day of family, fun, enjoying each other's, each other's companionship. So we were at King George V Memorial Park yesterday. We had a wonderful time. I think we had well over 800 persons in attendance, from young, old, babies, kiddies, and some older folk. And we had a wonderful time. And we also take this time to acknowledge some important persons in the community that have been doing good community work. And we acknowledged the YWCA, the Young Women's Christian Association, for their work in the community. They have some excellent programs, and being domiciled in the constituency, they have the breakfast club, and a lot of young boys and girls go there for breakfast every morning. So it's a national program,
Wow.
but we benefit a lot in the constituency because their location is in Deacon's Farm, and
Mm-hmm.
we're able
Mm-hmm.
then to send a lot of our youth
Wow.
there to get breakfast.
Yeah,
This
look
young
at
guy
that
here,
picture. Yes.
he's collecting on behalf of Alvin Buffett. So he plays basketball in Dickens, and Alvin was
Okay.
instrumental over a few years of reviving basketball on the Dickens hardcourt. And
Okay.
we have a couple of teams now competing locally, and also he took them overseas to get some exposure outside of Barbados. So Alvin,
Wow.
this is one of his students here. He couldn't make it to the picnic, but we recognize him as well. And our last person we recognized was Pastor Bino of the Nazarene Black Rock Church. He's
Hmm.
been working in that church and leading that church for 25 years. And
Wow.
that church is a backbone of the Freehill and the Black Rock community. And he's been doing some really good work. And we wanted as a community to acknowledge his service as a leader in the church as well. So we were very elated to host the picnic again. We had a wonderful time. This is by Mr. Bino here. We had a wonderful time, and
Yeah.
everyone is looking forward to next year. Yeah.
Well, I was looking at. I don't see any walk up and whining and partying and all that kind of stuff.
Oh no, this is a
Uh,
good old time picnic, man. We had some nice music. There was a little there was a little line dancing and
yeah, yeah,
karaoke and
yeah.
stuff like that. But we behaved
Some
ourselves.
decency, some decency. That's what we
Yes.
used to call it. Some decency. But look, Ryan.
Yes.
To be honest with you, I wish we had more time, and I certainly would love to have you back on one of my segments. I guess Marcia will probably pull your reins on one of
Yes. Yes.
hers to comment a little further on the economy, on the whole matter of
Okay.
economy. There's quite a lot that has been sent to me by Mr. Anthony Wood, of course, who's an expert in my view, an
Yeah.
expert, a lecturer at the UWI on economics, matters of economics, along with a couple of others. And I want to commend you really for the work that you're doing that I'm seeing there. I'm sorry I didn't know about it because I would have loved to have dropped in even for a couple of minutes, and because I love to get together with the older folk
Yes.
and reminisce on some of the things that used to
Uh,
be, some of the values we used to have, and that type of thing. So maybe the next time you're doing it,
yes,
you
for
can
sure,
send
man.
me a personal message,
Yes, I send you a
a private
VIP
message.
invite. I send you a VIP invite, man. For sure.
Well, thank you so very much. I really appreciate you
Thank you.
taking the time. I know you're a busy guy.
Yeah,
You
no
have a
problem
lot
at
on
all.
your plate, especially over the next couple of weeks as well, because I'm
Yes.
sure you're putting together some of the policies and things that your party is going to be looking at presenting to the people of Barbados, because we do need to hear things that will be of
Yes.
value and benefit to the people of the country. And I keep saying it's not about party. And I think I heard one of the people who was canvassing with Felicia make that same statement. It's about the country, and we want to do what is in the best interest of the country.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I really want to commend you for your efforts and thank you for the work you're doing on the behalf of the people of Barbados in the Senate. And that's what it is. It's on behalf of the people of the country.
Yes.
It's not just
Um,
about your
yeah.
party, and we appreciate that so very much.
And
So
before
thank
you
you
go, I mean,
so much. Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
before you go, just really want to endorse Felicia. I was
Hmm.
actually away on business for the last 7 days or so. So I joined the campaign trail tomorrow. So you haven't seen me yet, but you will see me out from tomorrow supporting Felicia, walking with Felicia when I can, and bringing home St. James North. Felicia's an excellent candidate. I heard Derek say
Yes,
so
she
just now.
is.
She's an excellent
Yes.
candidate, excellent person. She's very strong, devoted, she's committed, and she has shown that she can be committed to a cause. Her advocacy on human rights and education over the last few months has been astonishing. And I'm not just saying so because she's a comrade, but from watching on, there's nobody else. No one can deny that she has been fierce in her advocacy. Every time there's an issue at a school, she's there. And she's not doing it for the headlines. She's talking to the students. She's talking to the parents. She's talking to the teachers. She's going serious and strong relationships under the Ministry of Education's portfolio. So we'll be out supporting Felicia for the next few weeks, and we'll be bringing home St. James North. So thanks again for
Absolutely
having me.
great to hear that. And let me just
Yes,
say that she's a fighter. That's the one
yes,
of the things
yes.
I pick up about her. We've had some exchanges ourselves. She lives not too far from me. We ran into one another at the mini mart not far away from where I am, and she
Okay,
she is a real no nonsense person. She's very straight. She is very passionate and about what she believes, and she is a fighter, and she will
right.
fight for the people.
Of
I can
course.
tell you that she will absolutely
Continue to
fight.
fight. Yes.
Yes. Well, thanks
All right.
again,
Thanks again.
Senator Ryan. I look forward
Yes.
to having you back on the show sometime in the
All right.
not too distant future. Let's
No
hope that you
problem.
will come back on the show when she has brought the seat home on the
Just
21st
a
of
phone
May.
call away. So have a good night